So humans a lot of times have a bad habit of taking everything to the extreme and thinking that that's the best way to do it. Like that it has to be the strongest or it has to be the fastest. It always has to be the most direct route. But in reality, a lot of times you can sacrifice some of these things, especially for control. So one example is that it's okay to make something take longer if you're gaining control, sacrificing time for control. An example that I see a lot of times is when people are binding and they'll be in kind of about an even place in the bind and they think that they have enough bind that they can just shoot forward and get that shot because they have a little bit on the bind. But the issue here is that if the opponent also thrusts at the same time, a lot of times they'll either double or they may get hit and the opponent may not because you started the action, and since they were a little bit delayed, your tip is now getting to about their strong by the time that they're thrusting. One of the ways you can avoid this situation is by bringing your tip backwards and gaining more of the strong and then thrusting in. Now, this does sacrifice you a little bit of time, which is why I think a lot of people feel like it's not good to bring your tip back because you're losing a little bit of time. But in reality, there's nothing wrong with me bringing my tip back to gain the weapon a little bit more, get a little bit more control, and then thrust in when I have the blade gained a little bit better. So don't be afraid to bring your tip back to gain more control, because a lot of times you'll have a higher chance of hitting them when you have more control, even though it may take a little bit longer. Another thing to note on this is it doesn't always have to be in one tempo or at the beginning of the exchange. This can happen mid-exchange. You could be in the middle of attacking someone. I see this a ton in longsword, where you thrust up and the opponent thrusts up, and then they go to either cut or zverk when they don't realize that you can just get a little bit higher to get more of the gain and then thrust in or cut. Instead, what happens is both people go up and then both people try and cut around and they end up doubling. So even mid-exchange, you can still try to gain that weapon a little bit better, bringing your sword back. It doesn't always have to be go forward, forward, forward.